Marianne swept the wooden steps of the town hall, her broom whispering over dry boards. Dust lifted and blew away under the morning wind. "Faster, old woman," a passing ranch wife muttered without stopping. Marianne kept sweeping. Her shoulders stayed low, as if the weight of all the whispered insults hung from her bones. A wagon rolled past, wheels grinding through dirt. Two boys sitting in back pointed at her. "Mama says she's useless," one said. The other laughed. Marianne's grip tightened on the broom, yet she swept on. Inside the hall, lantern smoke clung to the walls. She wiped tables, quiet as falling ash. The mayor's wife strode in, perfume heavy. "You missed a spot," she snapped, pointing to an invisible stain. "Yes, ma'am," Marianne whispered. The woman leaned closer. "You should be thankful we let you work here." Marianne nodded, but did not lift her eyes. Her voice trembled. "Yes, ma'am." Outside, Elias stood near his horse, watching. He was a quiet cowboy with a steady gaze, broad hat, and worn boots. He saw Marianne shrink as the mayor's wife swept out with a satisfied smirk. His jaw set, but he said nothing. Marianne carried a bucket down the street, boots tapping softly. The morning sun burned pale across the dusty road. She stopped at the general store. Her coins shook in her palm as she placed them on the counter. The owner frowned. "You again? Hurry." "Yes, sir," she murmured, picking up flour, lard, and tea leaves. Two women entered behind her. "Look at her dress," one whispered loudly. "Looks like a rag." Marianne flinched. "Maybe she digs through trash for it," the other said. The shopkeeper snorted. "Wouldn't surprise me." Marianne tried to leave before tears reached her eyes. But the bag tore. The flour thumped onto the ground. Lard slid across the floor. Tea leaves scattered like dark snow. The women erupted in laughter. Clumsy and old. Poor thing. Marianne dropped to her knees, scrambling to gather her spilled goods. Her fingers trembled. "Leave it," one woman said. "Someone younger will clean it." Marianne's throat tightened. "Please, I paid for it." "Just go," the shopkeeper waved. "You slow things down." Marianne rose, empty-handed. The crowd watched her walk out, shoulders curved, eyes shining. Behind her, the laughter lingered longer than it should have. Elias stepped inside moments later. "Bag for the lady," he told the shopkeeper. "Put it on my tab." The man shrugged. "Waste of money." Elias didn't reply. He gathered the supplies, mounted his horse, and guided it after Marianne at a slow distance. Marianne hurried along the dusty path toward her small shack on the outskirts. The dirt road stretched ahead, horses nickered in nearby pens, and the wind carried faint church bells. Yet she heard only the echo of laughter. Far behind, Elias followed. His horse's hooves made gentle thuds. He did not call out. He simply followed, eyes narrowed in thought. Marianne reached her door and pushed it open. Inside, a single chair, one table, and a small stove waited. She collapsed onto the chair, burying her face in her hands. "Why do they hate me?" she whispered, though no one heard. A few minutes later, a knock sounded. Marianne stiffened. "Who is it?" "Elias," came the low reply. She opened the door a crack. Elias held out her groceries. "You dropped these." Marianne recoiled slightly, embarrassed. "I don't need charity." "It isn't charity," he said. "You paid for them." She took the bag slowly. "Thank you." He tipped his hat. "Morning's rough." She blinked, surprised he noticed. "It's how it always is." He studied her face. "Shouldn't be." Silence stretched between them, broken only by distant horse snorts and rustling grass. "You're kind," she whispered. "I just see what others ignore," he answered. She stepped back. "I should." "Marianne," he said gently. Her eyes widened. Few said her name kindly. "Keep your head up," Elias told her. "You matter more than they think." Her breath caught. "No one ever says that." "Then they should." He turned his horse. Marianne called after him. "Why follow me?" He paused. Someone needed to. He rode away, leaving her stunned. Later, she returned to town to finish cleaning the hall. Lanterns hung dim, and echoes bounced off the timber walls. She scrubbed quietly until dusk. As she left, a group of women walked past, giggling. "Look, she thinks she belongs," one sneered. They pushed against her shoulder. Mary Ann stumbled. "Watch yourself," another laughed. Mary Ann straightened her shawl. "Excuse me." Their laughter chased her down the steps. Elias watched from the edge of the street, shadows stretching long over the ground. His hand curled near his reins, knuckles white. Mary Ann headed toward her shack once more. Tears swam in her weary eyes. She wiped them, but fresh ones came. Behind her, Elias eased his horse into motion. He kept distance, like a guardian ghost trailing the broken woman through twilight. The western sky turned copper, wind whispering through dried grass. Mary Ann did not look back. She could not imagine anyone would follow her. Yet Elias did, silent, steady, watching every trembling step she took into the coming night. End chapter. Hook. Mary Ann walked home unaware that someone finally cared enough to follow. The town hall glowed under lantern light, music drifting through cracks in the walls. Mary Ann carried a tray of bread and stew bowls. "Move quicker," someone barked. She nodded and passed through the crowd, her back aching. "Why do they keep her?" A woman whispered loud enough to be heard. "Cheap labor," another answered. Mary Ann placed bowls on tables. "Thank you," she said softly. The mayor's wife swept past in a silk dress. "You are lucky to step foot inside, old girl," she snapped. Laughter spread across the hall. Mary Ann froze, eyes dropping. "Yes, ma'am." She moved toward the kitchen. Elias leaned against the back wall, arms crossed. He saw her trembling hands. She lifted a heavy barrel, struggling. "Need help?" someone mocked. Elias stepped forward and took the barrel from her without speaking. Mary Ann stared at him in shock. "I can." "It's heavy," he replied simply. She whispered, "Thank you." The mayor's wife scowled. "Pity makes her lazy," she sneered. Elias's jaw tightened, but he set the barrel gently and returned to the shadows. Mary Ann washed dishes in silence. "She ain't worth the trouble." A rancher snickered nearby. Mary Ann blinked fast, scrubbing harder. Later, she approached Elias with a broom. "You shouldn't help me," she murmured. "They'll say things." "They already do," he answered. "Let them." She looked at him, startled. His eyes held no judgment, only calm. A drunken woman staggered near. "The old cleaner talks to cowboys now? Maybe she's desperate." Laughter rose again. Mary Ann's cheeks burned. "Please stop," she whispered, but no one listened. Elias stepped closer. "Leave her." The woman snorted. "Or what?" "Enough," Elias said quietly, and she backed away, unsettled. Mary Ann whispered, "You don't have to defend me." "I know," he said, "but someone should." Her breath shook. She carried scraps outside, boots crunching on gravel. The cool air eased her lungs slightly. Lanterns scattered gold across the ground. Inside, more voices rose. "She looks tired," someone mocked. "Replace her." Mary Ann returned, head down. She brushed crumbs from a table. "Almost finished," she whispered. The mayor's wife appeared again. "Be grateful for your place," she said through a smile. Mary Ann swallowed. "Yes, ma'am." The woman leaned close. "No one else would hire you." Mary Ann's hands shook so hard, she nearly dropped the plate. Elias saw from across the room, fists clenching. Later, when the hall emptied, Mary Ann polished the floor. Two men at the door murmured. "Think the council will fire her?" One asked. "Next week," the other replied. "Younger help from the city's on the way." Mary Ann froze behind a pillar, stomach turning. "Next week," she mouthed numb. She stepped forward. "Excuse me, sirs, am I being replaced?" The men looked startled. "Probably," one shrugged. "Better folk coming." The word struck her like a slap. She nodded faintly. "I see." Elias approached. "What happened?" he asked softly. "They don't want me anymore," Mary Ann whispered. He studied her hollow face. "They're wrong." "They always are," she murmured, "but it never matters." Elias touched his hat brim. "Come walk outside." She followed. The street was darker now, lamps dimming, wind tugging at her shawl. Abigail, a gossiping shopkeeper, saw them. Walking with him now, she scoffed, acting above her place. Marianne flinched. Elias faced Abigail. Evening. Abigail's smirk faltered under his steady gaze. Marianne whispered, I should go. Don't rush, Elias said. I can't be seen with you, she murmured. You already are, he answered gently. She looked away. I'm losing my job, Elias. He nodded slowly. Maybe you shouldn't keep one that hurts you. It's all I have. Not anymore, he said. She frowned. What do you mean? He opened her hand and placed a coin there. I could use help at the ranch. Marianne shook her head. No. I'm not worth hiring. You are, he said. Let me prove it. Tears filled her eyes. Why? Because you matter, Elias replied. Someone should treat you that way. Marianne trembled, unable to speak. Down the road, lanterns flickered out one by one. The dusty street emptied. Horses snorted in their stalls, shadows long across the ground. You don't belong to their cruelty, Elias said. You deserve peace. She wrapped her arms around herself. I'm afraid. I know, he said. But you're stronger than you think. Marianne drew a shaky breath. I don't believe that yet. That's why I'm here, he told her. The final lantern went dark, leaving only moonlight. Marianne looked toward the empty hall, echoing laughter still ringing in her ears. They will replace me, she whispered. They can't replace your worth, Elias said. She met his eyes. For the first time, she felt seen not as a burden but as someone worth saving. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded once. I'll be nearby. Marianne watched him turn and walk into the moonlit street, his step steady. The emptiness around her felt deeper now, yet less lonely. Chapter hook. She learned she would lose her job next week, but for the first time, someone refused to let her fall alone. Dawn crawled over the plains, brushing pale gold across a dusty road where Marianne walked with her shawl tight around her shoulders. Boots scraped gravel. The horizon felt endless and hollow. Hoofsteps followed her. Ma'am, Elias called gently. She kept walking. You'll wear holes in those shoes before the sun's high. Marianne didn't turn. I have nowhere worth turning back for. Elias halted his horse beside her. Then don't walk alone. She finally faced him. His hat shadowed his eyes, though his voice was steady. What do you want, Elias? Work, he answered. If you'll take it. Her chin trembled. You pity me. No, he said. I hire workers. You need work. Nothing more. She studied the dust, then his worn saddle. I'm not charity. Never thought you were. Silence stretched. Birds stirred in the brush. What kind of work? She whispered. Barns need mucking. Meals need cooking. Fences need fixing. Same as any ranch trying to stand. Her throat tightened. They threw me out like I was dirt. That's them, Elias said. You're here. Something loosened in her chest. Then I'll try. He dismounted and handed her the reins. You ride. I walk. Hills are steep. I can walk. Everyone says that right before they faint, he muttered. A small laugh escaped her. She mounted awkwardly. Elias walked beside the horse, boots crunching. The ranch rested in a lonely valley. A sagging fence traced the fields, paint faded from barn doors. Horses swished their tails, pacing slow circles. Marianne breathed. It looks tired. So am I, Elias replied. We might help each other. Inside the house, cupboards were near bare. She rolled up her sleeves. Let me start with breakfast. Elias nodded. I'll fetch water. While she stirred cracked oats, she whispered to herself, steadying her hands. Elias returned, setting a tin cup down. You didn't have to, he said quietly. It's work, she replied. He looked almost startled. Thank you. Her eyes stung. Two ranch hands entered. Ben, broad-shouldered with a patched coat, and Clara, slim with braids tucked under a bandana. Ben sniffed oats exaggeratedly. Food. Real food. Clara elbowed him. Behave. Marian froze, bracing for ridicule. Ben grinned softly instead. Welcome. Heard town treated you wrong. Clara added, folks with cruel tongues ain't worth salt. Marianne swallowed. I don't know what you heard. Doesn't matter, Clara said. You're here now. They ate around the small wooden table. Elias sat opposite Marianne, posture straight. Ben sighed. Barn's rough today. Mud swallowed half a shovel. Marianne spoke before thinking. I'll scrape stalls. Might as well start earning. Elias watched her, eyes unreadable. All right. Holler if the pitchfork fights back. Ben chuckled. Oh, it will. Outside, the wind smelled of hay and dust. Marianne entered the barn. Damp straw and horse breath warmed the air. She lifted a fork, her arms shaking. You strong enough? Clara appeared at the doorway. I've cleaned worse. She plunged the fork into straw. Clara smiled. I'll help. Hours passed in slow rhythm. Hooves shifting, tools scraping, sunlight crawling across floorboards. Marianne's shoulders burned, but her heart steadied. When they paused, Clara leaned close. There's been gossip from town. Marianne stiffened. Let them talk. They say the old cleaner trapped a cowboy. Clara rolled her eyes. Small minds. Marianne set her jaw. Truth wasn't invited to their table. Elias stepped in, holding a broom. Ignore them. Dust doesn't stick if you don't stand still. Ben snorted. That sounded almost poetic. Elias grumbled. I hate poetry. Clara winked at Marianne. He cares more than he says. At noon, Marianne cooked beans and cornbread. Elias tasted a bite. Good, he murmured. Better than I've had in months. Thank you, she whispered. Afternoon's sun warmed the land. A wagon rattled past the ranch road. Children waved from its backboard. Marianne hesitated before raising her hand. Their smiles startled her. Ben leaned nearby. Folks around here remember kindness. Kids especially. Clara nudged Marianne. Wave back. You deserve joy same as anyone. Her fingers lifted slowly, returning the wave. Something fragile flickered inside her. Later, she scrubbed pans while Elias fixed a loose hinge. His voice broke the quiet. You worked hard today. So did you. But you didn't have to. Maybe I did, she answered. Idle hands think too loud. He paused. Then stay busy here. Pays small, but honest. She met his eyes. Honesty matters more than coin. Elias tipped his hat faintly. There's rooms in the bunkhouse. Take whichever isn't wet. Ben shouted from outside. Not the third one. Roof leaks worse than Clara's stories. My stories keep this place alive, Clara hollered back. Marianne laughed, small but real. Evening painted the barn gold. Horses quieted, tails flicking lazily. She brushed one mare's neck, murmuring, We're both skittish, aren't we? The mare nudged her sleeve. Behind her, Elias stood watching. She takes to you. I don't know why. Same reason folks might, given time. Her hands trembled faintly, less than yesterday. You sure you don't pity me? She asked without turning. No, he said. I respect you. Moonlight rose. Lanterns flickered in the yard. Marianne looked back toward the road she had walked, dust still whispering there. Maybe she wasn't alone anymore. But across the fields, voices drifted from town. Two riders passing near the fence sneered loud enough to be heard. So the old cleaner hooked herself a cowboy. Figures. Marianne's heart lurched. Elias stepped closer, jaw tight. Let them talk. Truth rides slower but lasts longer. Still, the words echoed. She watched the riders disappear, dust curling after them, dark hints of trouble to come. Her hands trembled again, though softer than yesterday. The gossip had begun. The morning softened. Marianne swept the porch while roosters broke the quiet. Lanterns hung from beams, trembling in the breeze. Hooves thudded rhythmically beyond the corral. Elias approached with a saddle over his arm. Ever oil one of these? She shook her head. Only scrubbed dirt off boots. Same patience, he said. Different leather. He sat beside her, passing a rag and tin. Slow circles. Let the hide breathe. She hesitated. Why are you teaching me? Because you stay, he replied. Work grows when hands do. Their fingers brushed while she learned. Her shoulders eased. Ben crossed the yard, yelling, You giving lessons now, boss? Elias grunted. Everyone pulls weight. Clara leaned on the fence. About time someone taught him patience. Marianne laughed lightly. Elias's eyes softened. Days fell into rhythm, feeding stock, brushing horses, stirring supper while shadows stretched. She slept in the bunkhouse without shaking, though dreams still fluttered. One evening Elias leaned against the doorframe. You looked rested this morning. I almost was, she answered. First time in years. Good, he murmured. They walked toward the corrals where horses flicked their ears. Elias paused beside a chestnut mare. Animals sense truth faster than people. Marianne petted the mare's neck. Then she sees mine? She trusts you, he said. Maybe you should trust yourself. She swallowed hard, trying. Ben called from the barn. Town needs supplies. Anyone brave enough for the gossip mill? Elias grabbed his hat. We're going. Marianne stiffened. With me? You're part of this place. His tone left no room for doubt. The general store smelled of tobacco and dry flour. A shopkeeper eyed Marianne with curled lip. Didn't think Elias kept strays. Her spine snapped straight. I'm here for. You're here under his roof, the shopkeeper sneered. Folks say you chase coin and cowboys. Elias stepped forward, coins hitting the counter. She's with me, he said, voice steady but sharp. You'll serve her or lose our business. The shopkeeper reddened, but pushed items across. Marianne watched Elias, shocked by the shield he became. Outside, wind tugged at her shawl. You shouldn't have. I should, he replied. No one spits on a worker of mine. Her voice wavered. No one ever defended me. He looked toward the plains. Then they were fools. Back at the ranch, Clara held up a faded blue shawl. Found this tucked away. Thought it might warm you. Marianne blinked. It's lovely. Old but sturdy, Clara smiled. Like some folks. Marianne wrapped it around her shoulders. It felt heavier than cloth, like belonging. Ben shouted from the corral. Fence, wire snapped. Elias hurried off. Marianne followed, boots sinking in dust. Together they pulled wire taut as wind howled. Lean back, Elias instructed. Her hand slipped. He caught it. Their eyes met briefly. She whispered, Thank you. He released her hand slowly. We're fixing fences, not saving worlds. Ben hollered, Worlds get saved one post at a time. Clara tossed Marianne a water skin. Drink before you fall over. Marianne sipped, sweat cooling her skin. You treat me kinder than strangers should. We ain't strangers anymore, Clara replied. That night over supper, children passed on the road again waving from a wagon. Marianne lifted her hand, steadier this time. Elias watched her. Getting easier? A little, she admitted. Later she sat by the barn, moon rising white over pastures. Elias walked over, saddle oil on his fingers. Rumors will keep fluttering, he said. Like vultures, she muttered. Let them circle. You're not carrion. Her breath caught. I don't know how to stand tall. You're doing it, he said quietly. Piece by piece. She touched the shawl around her shoulders. Clara's kindness startled me. Kindness shouldn't startle anyone, he answered. But sometimes it does. Ben stomped by with a lantern. Town's planning some full celebration soon. Wages paid there for ranch hands. Clara added from behind him. Everyone attends. No exceptions. Marianne tensed. I can't face them. You can, Clara said. Not alone. Elias nodded. You worked for your pay. Let them see it. Marianne's gaze drifted toward distant lights flickering over town. The shawl felt heavier, warm, protective. Her spine straightened a little, but fear still traced her breath. Wind stirred dust under starlight like whispers. The town was preparing, and she would have to walk into it. The celebration waited. So did the sharpened tongues. The town square buzzed with lantern light and muted music. Dust rose from booths and wagon wheels as townsfolk mingled, voices overlapping like a chorus. Mary Ann clutched her shawl tighter, feeling its soft weight against her shoulders. She walked slowly, heels scraping stone, head bowed. "Look at her," a woman whispered, pointing. "Even cleaned up a bit." "Who knew ragged boots could shine?" another replied. Mary Ann's stomach tightened. Her palms were clammy. "Keep moving," she muttered under her breath. From the edge of the crowd, Elias watched, calm as a ridge line against the sunset. He tipped his hat slightly when her gaze flicked his way. "Steady," he murmured. Mary Ann tried to shrink into a corner near the hall. The mayor's wife approached, eyes sharp, lips curled. Well, she said, voice dripping with false sweetness. "You've cleaned up well for once. Didn't think you had it in you." Mary Ann's knees weakened. She bowed slightly, hoping it would go unnoticed. Elias's hand brushed hers briefly. "Ignore them," he said low. "Stand straight." She nodded, but a tremor ran through her shoulders. Her fingers tightened around the rim of a water bucket. She stepped forward, trying to serve refreshments to nearby guests, and her boot caught a loose stone. Water sloshed from the bucket, spilling onto the floor. Glasses rattled. Laughter erupted, sharp, cruel, slicing through the square. "Clumsy old thing," someone shouted. "Still can't manage a bucket." Mary Ann's cheeks burned. She bent to gather the glasses, hands shaking. Her chest felt tight, heat rising under her skin. For a heartbeat, she felt smaller than dust in the street. A shadow fell over her. Elias knelt beside her, picking up shards silently. "Let me," he said softly. She hesitated. No words," he replied. "Just steady hands." They worked in tandem. His fingers brushed hers once, steadying her grip. She swallowed, heart hammering. The laughter faded behind the murmur of lanterns and footsteps. By the time the last cup was set upright, Mary Ann's chest felt lighter, as if the wind had blown away part of her shame. "You don't bow to them anymore," Elias said quietly, voice carrying calm certainty. Mary Ann looked up. His gaze was unwavering, steady as the frontier moon climbing into the darkening sky. Her lips trembled. I think I understand." A few children from nearby wagons waved at her. She waved back, fingers stiff at first, then looser. One small smile from a tiny hand reminded her of warmth she had forgotten. Ben strolled past, tipping his hat. "Not bad for a day in town. Shows who matters." Clara joined him, brushing dust from her skirt. "Keep your head high, Mary Ann. They can hiss all they want." Mary Ann nodded faintly, holding the shawl tighter. It felt like a shield, a soft promise of belonging. She caught Elias's eyes, and for the first time that evening, she allowed herself a small, steady breath. The mayor's wife lingered nearby, her lips pressed tight. "She's persistent," she muttered to a companion. Mary Ann's back straightened imperceptibly. Her hands were no longer shaking, her step firmer. The shawl was more than cloth now. It was a quiet armor. Elias moved to her side. "You're doing fine," he said softly. "Every step counts." Mary Ann's lips twitched in something like a smile. "Thank you." "You don't need their approval," he added. "You only need your own." The wind rustled through the lanterns, carrying a faint scent of hay and dust from the outskirts. Shadows stretched long across the square, and the music of fiddles and soft laughter blended with the night. Mary Ann's heart throbbed with a new rhythm, an unfamiliar calm stitched over old wounds. As the crowd began to thin, Mary Ann lingered near the steps of the hall. Elias stood beside her, hands in pockets, scanning the last of the retreating townsfolk. "They'll chatter," he said, "but it won't touch you." She nodded. "I never thought anyone would notice me." "You're more than they'll ever see," he said. A cool breeze lifted the hem of her shawl. She hugged it closer, eyes drawn to the moon above. Its pale light glinted off the cobblestones, reflecting her small, quiet change. From a distance, a paper flapped against the hall door. Mary Ann approached. A clerk handed it to her. The edge was crisp, official. She unfolded it slowly. Elias glanced over her shoulder. What is it? Mary Ann read aloud, voice tight. The property at Town Hall will be sold within 30 days. Her lips pressed together, disbelief flickering in her eyes. The hall. I cleaned it, and now it's for sale? He placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. The building doesn't define your work. You do. She folded the notice, holding it like a weight. The sound of distant laughter from a passing wagon echoed faintly, mixing with the rustle of wind through the square. Her heart ached again, threads of old humiliation tugging, but beneath it, something new lingered. Quiet courage, stitched from small acts, the touch of steady hands, the soft shield of the shawl. Tomorrow, Elias said, we face it together. You won't stand alone. Mary Ann looked up at the frontier moon, hanging white and steady above the quiet town. Shadows stretched across the square, but the light hit her shawl just so. A small warmth blossomed, fragile and persistent. She inhaled slowly, letting the night settle around her. Somewhere between the echoes of the past and the present moonlight, she felt the beginnings of healing. The square emptied. Lanterns dimmed. The hall waited for new owners. Mary Ann tucked the notice into her shawl, heart steadying. She glanced at Elias. I suppose change always comes. Yes, he said, voice low, steady as the plains. But you'll meet it standing tall. Mary Ann adjusted the shawl, spine straight, eyes forward. The wind carried away the last echoes of laughter. The frontier night felt wider, calmer, and a little more like home. Chapter hook. The hall she had cared for so long was now up for sale, and the next chapter of her life waited beyond the pale light of the moon. Morning sunlight spilled over the ranch, glinting off dusty rails and worn barns. Mary Ann carried water buckets, shoulders still trembling from the day before. Elias approached, dust trailing from his boots. I heard about the hall, he said quietly. She froze. It's for sale. I can't. You can, he interrupted. It's being sold cheap. Debt weighs heavier than the roof. Mary Ann shook her head. I don't have that kind of money. You have enough to make a start, Elias said. I can loan the rest. You earned respect long before this day, Mary Ann. Time to claim it. Her fingers trembled against the bucket. Own it? Me? The hall. Yes, he said. Your name on paper. Nothing in their mouths can change that. She stepped back, shaking. I can't imagine. Elias's eyes softened. Imagine this. You've cleaned, you've worked, you've endured. The hall belongs to the one who values it. That's you. Mary Ann swallowed, eyes filling. And the townsfolk? They'll chatter, he said. But you won't need their permission. Ben and Clara arrived, carrying bundles of papers. We'll help, Clara said. You can't faint on the pen, Mary Ann. Ben grinned. Or, drop the ink. That'd be a sight. Mary Ann tried a weak laugh. I'm not used to holding anything that belongs to me. Clara patted her shoulder. Today changes that. Elias laid out the documents on a table. Sign here, here, and here, he instructed. We'll walk through each. Her hand shook above the first line. She bent close, seeing the bold letters. Town Hall, new owner, Mary Ann Whitaker. She exhaled sharply. It's real. Yes, Elias said. Your name. Yours to command, preserve, or let be. Nobody else. Her fingers brushed the ink, disbelief plain on her face. I can't believe this. You can, Clara said gently. One stroke at a time. Ben handed her the pen. Go on. Make it yours. Mary Ann's hand hovered. Memories of ridicule and whispered insults flared in her mind. She remembered the mayor's wife sneering, the laughter spilling over spilled water, the townsfolk calling her clumsy and useless. She exhaled, pressed pen to paper, and signed. The ink spread across the lines like proof of a life reclaimed. Clara clapped softly. It's done. Ben grinned wide. Welcome, ma'am. Town Hall's your problem now. Mary Ann stared at the deed, holding it to her chest. The paper felt heavier than any bucket or broom, yet steadier than her own hands had ever been. Her breath caught. "Mine," she whispered. Elias placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "Yours, Marianne. Nothing to fear." She looked up, searching his face. "Even if they refuse to see me as owner?" "They'll see," he said. "They must." Word traveled fast. By evening, the town murmured as the news spread. At the general store, voices rose. "Whitaker owns the hall." "The old cleaner?" "They can't mean it. She's useless." Marianne entered slowly, shawl around her shoulders, deed hidden inside. Elias trailed behind. The shopkeeper scowled. "Didn't expect you to hold a pen, let alone papers for this town." Marianne squared her shoulders. "I hold them, and I will manage what's mine." Elias stepped beside her. "She speaks the truth. Accept it." The shopkeeper bristled. "We'll see about that." Outside, children waved from wagons, sensing the stir. Marianne returned their smiles, smaller but steadier than before. Ben and Clara met her at the door. "They'll fight it," Ben warned. "They always do," Clara said, "but now you have weight behind words." Marianne clutched the deed. I never thought." "You earned it," Elias interrupted. "Step by step, as always." At the ranch that night, she traced the ink on the paper. "It's hard to believe. Me owning the hall." "You've endured worse," Elias said, voice low. "This is simply proof." She nodded slowly. "Proof that I matter. And others will learn," he added, "whether they like it or not." Morning brought whispers like wind through the streets. The mayor's wife, gathering friends, muttered loudly, "She can't hold authority. It's preposterous." "They say she trapped a cowboy too," one man sneered. Marianne's cheeks flamed briefly, but her jaw tightened. She held the deed against her chest like a shield. Elias stepped forward. "She doesn't need your permission." She's the cleaner," another shouted. "And now she's the owner," Elias replied evenly. "Deal with it." Marianne exhaled, realizing for the first time the weight of standing upright, not bowed by ridicule, not shamed by the past, not diminished by whispers. Her fingers flexed around the paper. I'll show them," she whispered, voice steady. Clara smiled. "You will. Step by step." Ben added, "And we've got your back." The frontier wind swept through the streets, carrying dust, whispers, and anticipation. Lanterns flickered along the hall's windows. Marianne lifted her head, letting the shawl fall softly around her shoulders. The town had yet to accept her. They would resist. They would mock. But she was ready. Her name was written clearly on paper. Her voice could not be ignored. Her place was no longer at the edges. The crowd would have to face her. Chapter hook. A public confrontation was demanded at the next town hall gathering, and Marianne would not stand silently. The town hall was packed, lanterns swinging faintly on the walls. Dust clung to the air like stubborn memory. Marianne entered slowly, shawl around her shoulders, hands clutching the deed. Whispers rippled across the room. "She thinks she owns it now," someone muttered. "Useless cleaner? Own a building?" Marianne's fingers tightened around the paper. Her stomach knotted. I'll stay near the back," she whispered. "You won't hide today," Elias said beside her. "Not now." The mayor's wife stood at the front, voice sharp and brittle. "Marianne Whitaker," she said, "do you really think you are fit to run this hall? You cleaned its floors, served its food, and yet you presume to own it." A few men laughed, some women tittered, the sound slicing through the room. Marianne's knees quivered. She glanced at Elias, but the shadows of the past threatened to pull her down. "You've no idea," she whispered, voice shaking. "Speak," Elias said softly, his eyes steady on hers. "Or let me speak." The mayor's wife's laughter rang hollow. "She speaks. Pathetic." Marianne stepped back, shoulders hunching. Elias moved forward. The room fell quiet at the shift of his boots across the wooden floor. "Quiet," he said. "Listen." All eyes turned to him. His voice carried firm over the murmurs. "Do you remember the day she served your tea, mayor's wife? You sneered. Lucky she's even allowed inside. Laughed at her spilling water. Called her clumsy, useless, slow. The mayor's wife paled, lips pressed tight. Or the time at the general store, Elias continued, when she tried to buy bread and was mocked for her worn dress? Laughed at by men and women alike? The same whispers that made her small, that tried to shrink her to nothing. The hall grew still. Lanterns swung gently, dust dancing in the beams. Every insult you whispered, Elias said, voice rising. Every laugh meant to wound. She endured. She did her work quietly, without complaint, while you cheered for her misery. Marianne's chin trembled. She lifted her eyes and met the gaze of the room. Something had shifted. Her shoulders straightened, her hands relaxed around the deed. I am Marianne Whitaker, she said, voice clear, steady. I will keep this hall open. I will hire workers who treat it with respect. Not because I am cruel, but because respect is earned, not demanded. Not because I want revenge, but because work deserves dignity. A hush fell. Some mouths hung open. A few eyes darted away, shame hiding in corners. The mayor's wife sputtered, trying to regain control. You can't. You have no power here, Marianne said, lifting her chin higher. Her voice carried in the quiet hall. This hall, these walls, these floors, I have cared for them more than any of you. And now I own them. I will govern them with fairness, not cruelty. I will not bow to mockery. I will not cower in fear. The crowd shifted uneasily. Whispered mutters dropped to silence. Some hands fidgeted, others gripped chairs. The weight of past cruelty pressed in, yet Marianne stood firm, unwavering. Then leaned against the doorway, nodding quietly. Clara's hand brushed Marianne's shoulder, steadying her. Elias's eyes met hers, calm and resolute. You have all seen her as small, Elias said. You have all seen her bent by your words. But she is not small. She is not bent. She stands here, stronger than you gave her credit for, and stronger than any of your scorn could break. The mayor's wife's face reddened. She looked at her companions, seeking support, but the room avoided her gaze. The power she clutched had dissolved. Marianne felt the tension drain, like water from a bucket. Her heartbeat slowed. She had not imagined this moment. Not in years had she pictured standing so tall, declaring authority not to punish, but to preserve dignity. I will maintain this hall, Marianne repeated softer now, for anyone willing to work with respect. For anyone willing to honor it. And for myself. I will not allow cruelty to dictate my life anymore. Silence lingered. Dust swirled faintly in the lantern light. Marianne's breath evened. The deed, folded in her hands, felt lighter than the shame it had replaced. A child's laugh echoed from the back of the hall. Marianne smiled faintly, the sound reminding her of small kindnesses, the wave of little hands, Clara's shawl, Ben's soft grin, Elias's steady support. The mayor's wife finally spoke, voice trembling. This can't be true. Elias's eyes never wavered. It is true, he said, and it will remain true. Marianne Whitaker stands here today because she endured. You, who mocked and laughed, will need to reckon with what you witnessed. Marianne took a slow breath, letting the words settle. The hall no longer felt hostile. It was hers, in every way that mattered. Thank you, she whispered to Elias, voice low, private. He nodded. No thanks needed. You did this yourself. She exhaled fully, shoulders loosening. The weight of humiliation had lifted, replaced by something fragile, steady, release. Outside, the frontier skies stretched wide. Lanterns flickered behind her, casting long shadows over the steps. Marianne stepped through the doors and paused. The cool night brushed her cheeks. She leaned against the railing, the shawl around her shoulders, and let tears fall. Not from fear, not from shame, not from hurt, but from something she had not felt in decades: freedom, release, and quiet triumph. Elias approached silently, standing beside her, boots crunching on gravel. It's a good night, he said softly. She nodded, eyes wet but chin high. Yes, she whispered. It is a very good night. The moon hung over the town hall, pale and steady, watching as Mary Ann Whitaker allowed herself the first tears of relief in a lifetime. The frontier was wide, the dust settled, and her place at last was clear. The town had seen the woman she had become. And outside, under the quiet sweep of moonlight, Mary Ann finally cried, not from pain, but from release. If you want Chapter 8, I can continue immediately with the next exact 900-word chapter, keeping the same dialogue-driven, cinematic, Western emotional style. The night air was cool and dry, carrying the scent of hay and horses from the corral. Lanterns swung gently on the barn walls, casting soft pools of light over worn boards and scattered dust. Mary Ann's boots crunched on the gravel as she approached the ranch, shawl pulled tight around her shoulders. "You made it back," Elias said, leaning against the fence, hat tipped low. She nodded, voice trembling. I couldn't have done it without you." He shook his head slowly. "No one saved you, Mary Ann. You stood up for yourself. I only rode beside you." Mary Ann looked at him, heart swelling. "But you showed me what it could be like, someone believing in me." "Belief isn't saving," he said, voice soft. "It's just a guide. You did the work. You earned it." The horses flicked their ears, stirring in the starlight. She walked to the corral, hands brushing their flanks. Their coats shone under the lantern glow, gentle and calm, a rhythm she felt inside her chest. I never thought I'd feel this," she admitted. "Not in town, not anywhere. That weight, it's gone." Elias nodded, leaning closer to the railing. "It takes courage to lift it yourself. Most don't try. Most let it crush them." Mary Ann's gaze drifted over the fields. Shadows stretched long, soft in the glow of the stars. "I'm ready now. For everything. For the hall, for a life." "Good," Elias said. "Because nothing changes until you do." She swallowed, tears glinting in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, voice shaking. "You're welcome," he replied. "But remember, thank yourself. You've carried more than anyone could see." The barn door creaked as Clara and Ben appeared, carrying blankets and a small supper. "We thought you'd like something warm," Clara said, smiling. Ben added, "And we've been checking the horses. No broken fences tonight. You've earned a little calm." Mary Ann accepted the bread and soup, sitting on a bench under the lantern light. She watched the fireflies drift among the corral rails, tiny sparks against the dark. "It feels peaceful," she murmured. Elias leaned against the post, eyes on the horizon. "Peace is earned too, piece by piece. Just like respect." The next morning, children waved from wagons, their voices cutting the quiet. "Miss Mary Ann." "Good morning, Miss Mary Ann." Mary Ann paused, heart lifting. The title felt strange and right all at once. "Good morning," she called back, smiling. Their small faces radiated trust and warmth, a stark contrast to the sneers she had endured. Elias joined her, tipping his hat. "Looks like the town is learning fast." She laughed softly. "It's more than learning. They're seeing me as I am. I've waited a long time for that." They walked through town together. Shopkeepers nodded, tipping hats. A few still muttered under their breath, but bowed their heads in acknowledgement. Mary Ann felt the shift in the air, subtle yet undeniable. Respect lingered where mockery once had. At the hall, she paused, hands resting on the doorframe. Her name, Mary Ann Whitaker, was written clearly on the deed, and now on the ledger of her life. Workers arrived, nodding and smiling, ready to serve with diligence. She welcomed them warmly, giving instructions and offering care, ensuring kindness matched efficiency. Clara helped set up supplies, Ben adjusted chairs, and Mary Ann stood tall among them, hands steady, shawl draped loosely over her shoulders. She moved with quiet authority, soft but firm. The hall was hers not to dominate, but to protect, to nurture, to restore dignity where it had once been denied. Elias lingered by the steps, watching her. "You've done more than hold a building," he said quietly. "You've shown the town what it means to endure and to rise." Mary Ann glanced at him, eyes soft. I couldn't have imagined it. Not without you here. He shook his head. I'm just part of it. The courage, the strength, it's all yours. The sun rose higher, dust motes drifting in warm light. Marianne moved among her new workers, instructing, encouraging, offering quiet praise. Her face was serene but strong, a reflection of the woman who had once cowered at whispered insults. Children passed along the street, calling greetings and laughter, and she waved back, fingers steady now, no hesitation. The town seemed quieter, gentler, as if it had paused to witness her quiet triumph. Later, Marian stood at the fence, watching Elias prepare to ride out. His saddle creaked as he adjusted it, hands firm on the leather. "Heading west for supplies?" she asked. He nodded, eyes meeting hers briefly. "A few days. The plains call." She nodded, shawl tight around her shoulders. "Be safe." "You've already carved a home here," he said. "No matter where I go, you'll stand tall." Her chest rose and fell with a steady rhythm. "And wherever you ride, you'll know there's a place waiting. A home." He tipped his hat, horse shifting beneath him. "I'll keep that in mind." Dust swirled in the morning light as he spurred the horse forward. Marianne watched him disappear over the ridge, the dust trailing like memory and promise. She turned back to the hall, hands resting lightly on the doorframe, heart steady. The wind carried faint echoes of laughter, voices, and the soft sound of hooves on gravel. Her eyes softened, and she exhaled, a long, quiet release. Marianne Whitaker, the woman once mocked, belittled, dismissed, stood where she had been scorned. Now she protected, led, and nurtured, her dignity restored. The hall, the town, the frontier, they were hers to guide with quiet justice. The lanterns swung gently in the breeze, horses grazed under the stars, and Marianne's spirit, once broken, stood tall at last. Under the wide, endless sky, she felt the permanence of her place. The frontier stretched before her, steady, enduring, and hers. And she knew, wherever Elias rode, her heart had found a home.